Stephen Lewis, I wanted to ask you. You made one kill, and then you immediately appealed to your superiors about what you were doing. Could you talk about your experience, who you killed?
It was late 2009, and I was tasked to go support a troop in contact, and that's whenever our troops are taking fire.
And this was in which country?
Oh, it was in Afghanistan. And during this troops in contact, we were told to go to this specific location. It was 4 guys walking down a mountain path, and I didn't see any weapons. I didn't see anything. About 5 minutes goes by, and 2 Hellfires come in, and they kill 3 people, and there was 1 wounded guy left. I was given clearance to, we were given clearance to fire the missile, and that guy he just wasn't there anymore.
This is you're given clearance to fire at the wounded guy on the ground.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So what did you do next?
Seriously reevaluated my life. Shortly after that, I ended up writing a very, very convincing letter to my leadership and told them that I didn't belong there. I didn't want to do it anymore, and I wanted out.
And what was their response?
6 months later, I was out of the Air Force.
How were you chosen as a drone operator?
I was chosen basically at random. I went to imagery analysis school, which I wanted to look at satellite photos. That's what I wanted to do. And about halfway through it, they come up and they say, you're going to Las Vegas. You're going to go to sensor operator school, and you're going to do this.
Did they say why?
They don't have to. There's no argument there. It's, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, I'll do whatever you tell me to.
And now that you're out of the Air Force, how has what you did in the Air Force, being a drone operator, engaging in that kill, affected you?
It makes any kind of relationship difficult. I can't communicate properly with my friends. I have to preface it with, I'm sorry guys, I can't hang out with you tonight. There's too much going on right now. It's in effect killed every single relationship that I've had afterwards. I can't.
What about this issue that you raise in your letter, how the drone program is actually helping to fuel or create more terrorism?
Well, it's been noted in the film Drone that that kids are afraid to go outside and play or go to school during the day whenever the sun is out, whenever the sun is shining, because they're afraid that they're going to get struck by a drone.
Why don't we go to that? Why don't we go to that, a clip from the film? This is from the film Drone, 2012. A 67-year-old Pakistani woman was killed by an alleged U.S. drone while picking okra in a field with her grandchildren. In 2013, we spoke to her grandchildren, Nabila and Zubair, who were then 9 and 13. Both of them were injured in the strike that killed their grandmother. This begins with Zubair.
I had gone to school that day, and when I came back, I had a snack, and I offered my prayers. And my grandma asked me to come outside and help her pick the vegetables.
You were hit by this drone that killed your grandmother?
Yes, I had seen a drone and 2 missiles hit down where my grandmother was standing in front of me, and she was blown into pieces, and I was injured to my left leg.
And Nabila, you're 9 years old. How have things changed for you since the attack? How's your going out again, out into the fields alone, or do you fear again other possible attacks?
Ever since the strike, I'm just scared. I'm always scared. All of us little kids, we're just scared to go outside.
That's Nabila, and before that, Zubair, her brother, the Raymonds, talking about the drone strike that killed their grandma in Pakistan. They also testified with their dad, who wasn't there when they were picking okra with their grandmother. They testified in the U.S. Congress. Now, that happened in Pakistan. Your target was in Afghanistan.
I don't think a matter of 500 miles makes a difference. The culture is very, very similar. And you're creating an atmosphere of fear. And there's an old saying in Texas, you don't back a scared animal up against a wall. And if you do that, he's going to come out fighting. And that's exactly, I think, what's happening now.
Has the VA provided mental help to you as you suffer?
I've been to the VA, but it seems useless. It seems useless for me. It's been 6 months. They've said, hey, you need an MRI. It's been 6 months without an MRI. It's, hey, you need medication to manage this pain. It's been 6 months without medication to manage pain. It's, if they're not going to take care of you, then why should you even go?
Cian, I wanted to ask you, you were a technician in the drone program. Could you talk about what specifically you did and how your duties differed from the operators?
Right. So we built a site that was used as a relay station while we were there.
While you were in Afghanistan?
While I was in Afghanistan, yes, at Kandahar. And we were taking in signals from all over Afghanistan, 250,000 square miles, like, essentially. And we were relaying it and sending it long haul, from there to the Combined Air Operations Center. And
which is located where?
In Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. And then to Ramstein. And pretty much we had been building, the site, and one day my boss came to me and everybody else, and he handed us a headset, and we were listening to airplane talking to, it was an A-10 talking to a battle manager. And he smiled and he said, "We're killing bad guys now, boys." And I think why it was so significant for me was my father was actually working at a headquarters in Kuwait during 9/11, and he was ordering the missile parts for the initial bombing, and he was telling me some of the culture that was there and the people making command decisions. They would go after certain targets, and then they would have missiles left over, and they would find targets, which was essentially anybody who was wearing white. And that was my first thought whenever he said, "We're killing bad guys now, boys."
Explain what you mean by anyone wearing white.
Anyone wearing white.
Why white?
Because the stigma that people who wore white were Taliban. So those were the thoughts that were running through my head while I was there. I started having nightmares about what I did, hurting children, and me trying to help them and not being able to.
What year was this?
It was in 2009, and whenever we got back, we got a piece of paper. It was the enlisted performance report, and it said on it that we had supported 2,400 close air support missions and assisted in 200+ enemy kills, which I knew was wrong. because anybody in the Air Force knows that an airstrike has collateral damage, a significant amount of the time.
So you're saying you knew it was much more?
Well, I'm saying that it wasn't all enemies, it was civilians as well. And when I looked at the UNAMA report that came out the next year, it was saying somewhere upward of 350 civilian kills. So it's kind of, it's made me sort of reevaluate what I was doing there and trying to figure out, exactly how, we got that on our piece of paper. And we, well, I guess I come to the conclusion that, these are the people that were actually administering the strikes. And you had pilots that pulled the trigger. You had imagery analysts that picked the targets, and the decision maker. And all within the system, it's the responsibility for killing the person is divided, so nobody feels the full responsibility of what they're doing. And I think that we're moving towards a world where, in aerial warfare, where increasingly there's going to be more technicians and less decision makers. And I think we should open up a new paradigm of, ethics and what it means to do your duty as a technician. And I think one of the more influential voices for me was Oppenheimer,
J. Robert Oppenheimer.
J. Robert Oppenheimer, yeah, exactly. Who developed the atomic bomb. And I mean, to see the effects of that must have been devastating. He must have felt like a destroyer of worlds, and I think for me that's kind of how I feel, because all the signals were coming through there, and everybody who was making that system work was responsible. And I think how this applies to Germany is that the air base in Ramstein housing that data relay station, the people there are responsible for whatever signals that are going through there, and the German government not communicating to the public or not knowing what we were doing. It was a big disrespect on America's part and potentially the German government's part. I'm not saying that they knew.
I wanted to ask you...
we have to break, but then we're going to come back to your question one. J. Robert Oppenheimer's quote, I think he was quoting the Bhagavad Gita, I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. J. Robert Oppenheimer, he was the leading scientist that created the atomic bomb in New Mexico. And you live in New Mexico, right, Cian?
Yes.
Cian Westmoreland, Stephen Lewis, Brandon Bryant, and Michael Haas. 4 young men who are speaking out, between them more than 20 years of experience operating military drones. They've all written a letter to President Obama. We urge you to stay with us as we continue this discussion. Back in a minute.